Edit 2. Some people explained to me in DMs that I was sexually attacked. I didn't think about that before, but I feel weird and bad thinking that maybe it was like that. Yes, I have some trouble with feeling too guilty about everything. I'm sorry. I try to read only the good comments, but it's hard to ignore the comments of insistent people who say, I'm a POS. I don't want to keep feeling bad for not sleeping with her because I have always been really supportive of every queer people. So yes, even if it sounds stupid, I feel guilty for making her feel rejected because that led me to feel really uncomfortable in that situation. I don't want to think that I was sexually attacked in some way because she wanted to keep kissing me when I didn't want to. It makes me feel sick, and I want to think it wasn't like that. And the comments calling me trans unfriendly make me feel worse for not having slept with her, even if I wasn't at all attracted to her in the hotel. I don't want to think that if I'm really a victim, I'm feeling guilty about it. And if I'm really a victim, then the comments are really sick and disgusting. My sister always told me that if you felt attacked, then it was like that. But I really don't want to believe that because it has made me feel weird. I'm just going to delete the account so that everything gets deleted. I want to forget what happened, and it was a mistake to make the post because the comments are a mess in general. I'm just going to make it clear again that this is not a hate post, but people want to be the victim and they project their traumas with my post. My experience with a trans person is never going to change my opinion about an entire community. Thanks for the nice comments, but this place is just too much, and I think a lot of people don't even read the whole post or are too young to have reading comprehension. Telling someone that they're confused about their sexuality and that they need to experiment is intimacy attack. That's something many in the comments should understand. Edit. I feel weird about people saying that I feel confused when I'm not. And yes, I thought about that, and I'm not confused. To see it in some way, I can say that I experimented and I didn't like it. That's it. And if you want me to say it directly, I like cis women's vaginas. I respect everyone, but I can't force myself to be attracted to other bodies. Also, trans unfriendly comments are unnecessary and disrespectful. This is not a bait post, and I don't want trans people to feel attacked by those kinds of comments because it's not my intention. I think people can comment without being aggressive. I don't know if the mods can do something about those comments. This isn't a hate post. I don't know why people in the comments can't give their opinion without being aggressive or projecting themselves with the story. I'm a straight man. I started talking to a girl on a dating app who looked very nice, and we share similar tastes. I'm not looking for anything serious, so it was fine. We had a date in person, and although she had a deep voice, I didn't think anything of it. We went to a hotel, and while we were touching each other, I noticed that her body was different. It felt different, but I couldn't tell what was making me feel uncomfortable because we still had clothes on. I stopped and looked at her for a few seconds, trying to understand what was different. I guess she noticed how I was feeling because she confessed to me that she's trans and instantly tried to continue kissing, but I stopped her. I don't really know how to say this without being called trans unfriendly, but I like cis women. I believe in trans rights and always supported them, but I'm not attracted to them. It's just a matter of preferences. And if I didn't even like kissing her without knowing she's trans, then I'm sure this isn't for me. I experimented and didn't like it. That's all. To be honest, I was annoyed that she didn't tell me before that she's trans. Most of queer people on those apps have their flag on the bio, but I didn't reproach that to her because she doesn't have to put the flag if she doesn't want to. I told her that we better stop everything here, and she instantly got angry and started to say that I'm just reacting like that because I got confused and I need to try to find out whether or not I like being with a trans girl. I replied that I am honestly not confused, and I do not feel comfortable. I tried to be really respectful when she was getting angry, and I didn't want to be there anymore. I just left the hotel, and she wrote me a text, cursing me and saying that many men love trans women, but they're too afraid to admit it. I have a trans friend, and he told me that she is wrong, but I can't help but feel guilty, and that maybe I was cruel to her by rejecting her. But I really felt something different on her even before knowing that she's trans. The instant I found out, I didn't feel a bit of attraction or curiosity. Am I the idiot? English is not my first language. I write almost everything from the translator. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. On dating apps, some things should be put right out there. That you have children, that you're transgender, that sort of thing. You prefer women with vaginas. Nothing wrong with that. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I will always support transgender people's rights to openly be who they really are, but there's no intimacy interest. Everyone has their preferences. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and wow, things have taken some turns. I've been trying to process everything, and I guess I just need to vent a bit. So, after the whole hotel incident, I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. My phone blew up with messages from her. At first, they were apologies, saying she should have been upfront about being trans. I didn't respond because I just wanted to move on. But the messages didn't stop. They got more intense, accusing me of leading her on and being a typical guy. I blocked her number, but she found me on social media. It was like I couldn't escape. I talked to my sister about it, the one who's always been my rock. She told me that I had every right to feel the way I did, and that I shouldn't let anyone guilt me into feeling otherwise. She reminded me of the time when we were kids, and I stood up for her when she was being bullied. She said I've always been someone who respects others, and this situation was no different. I needed that reminder. But then, things got even more complicated. My trans friend, the one who had been supportive before, suddenly went cold on me. I found out through a mutual friend that he had heard a different version of the story from her. She had twisted things to make it seem like I was the bad guy, and he believed her. I tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen. Losing his friendship hurt, but it also made me realize that some people will only see what they want to see. Work has been my escape from all this drama. I've been throwing myself into it, trying to forget. But then, she showed up at my office. I don't know how she found out where I work, but there she was, making a scene in front of my colleagues. She was yelling, saying that I owed her an explanation. My boss had to step in and escort her out. It was mortifying. I had to explain to my boss and coworkers, which was a conversation I never wanted to have. I've been reflecting on everything that's happened. I remember when I first joined the dating app, I was just looking for something casual, nothing serious. I never imagined it would lead to this kind of drama. It's made me rethink online dating altogether. The heartbreak in all of this isn't just about a romantic relationship gone wrong. It's about the loss of a friendship that I valued. It's about the trust I had in people being shattered. It's about feeling unsafe and exposed in places where I should feel secure, like my workplace. I've been trying to rebuild that sense of security. I changed my routines, I've been more cautious about my privacy, and I've been spending more time with family and friends who support me. My sister has been my anchor, reminding me of who I am when I start to doubt myself because of all the accusations. I've learned a lot about boundaries and the importance of being clear about them. I remember my first serious girlfriend, how we had such clear communication and respect for each other's boundaries. I miss that. It's something I took for granted before all this happened. I'm not sure what the future holds for me in terms of dating. Right now, I'm just trying to find some normalcy again. I'm focusing on the good in my life, the people who stand by me, and the lessons I've learned. My ex cheats and commits a felony against me, but wants me to babysit our kids on the anniversary of his affair so he can celebrate with his new partner until I get the house. I, 32-year-old female, was married to 34-year-old male for 11 years, and we were together for 14 years. After going on a trip with his male friends while I stayed home with our children, he cheated on me. Cheating is my deal breaker. Despite wanting an amicable divorce, my ex did a series of malicious things during our breakup that made everything more difficult, including committing a felony against me. I didn't press charges, which resulted in him losing his employment. Just for context on the state of our relationship. My ex wants to go on a trip to celebrate his 2-year anniversary, which is also the time he cheated on me. He does not have a support system, so he wants me to watch the kids on those days. I told him no, and I explained last year when he asked me that it's disrespectful to even ask. He feels like I should get over it, but to me, I feel like I value myself too much to do so. I figure this will be an annual thing. Am I the a-hole? Edit for info. I am with my kids 5 out of 7 days a week. I always take them if my ex asks me to, this date being the only exception. My children don't know about this conflict as my ex and I only communicate on the parenting app. There is no risk of harm to the children by my refusal. My ex has to notify me if he is getting a babysitter due to the right of first refusal being in our parenting agreement, but he has specifically stated he won't be getting a babysitter. I know we both love our kids, and if I had an inkling he was harmful to them, I would instantly go for full custody. As I mentioned above, it's the anniversary of many traumatic things that happened. The cheating was the start. My ex refusing to let me into the home I paid half the mortgage for, destroying sentimental clothing, blackmailing me, a ton of verbal abuse, hacking into all my accounts, email, FB, Amazon, etc., starving my pet who was still in the home because I couldn't bring them with me to my family's house, dragging on the divorce, the list goes on. I have no interest in pressing charges for the felony my ex committed, mentioned in the comments. I just feel like it would indirectly negatively impact my kids. My ex already struggles to provide for the kids financially, and the recording is only available through a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, request with both our permission needed to access it. Honestly, it's just me talking about feeling defeated and being upset with his recent actions. So it makes him look worse, especially given the context. More info. My pet, a hedgehog, is thriving. She doesn't live with us, but I am hoping to find a place that will let us take her this year. Even more info. I cannot be certain if the starving of my hedgehog was intentional. It was after my ex lost his job and was harassing alcohol. I do not think it's okay, and I am not justifying it, just saying there is a possibility he forgot to care for her. My kids were not with him when he was harassing alcohol. He is in therapy and has stopped harassing alcohol to my knowledge. That is why I don't think he would harm the kids. My ex is upset because he has to shorten and delay his trip so he can look after the kids on his parenting day. He does not intend on getting a babysitter. If he did hire one, then the kids would be with me instead. He loves our kids and does try to be a good parent. The kids are always wanted and always loved. I am not using them to get back at my ex. I am holding to a boundary out of self-respect. The kids are unaware of our conflict. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. I understand you feel I should get over it. Here's the thing. I don't care about how you feel. That's a luxury of being your ex-wife. You want to celebrate cheating on me and ruining my marriage? I, oddly enough, do not want to help you out with that. Learn how to celebrate your infidelity on days when you don't have our children. Comment 2. My ex-husband and his new wife celebrate the anniversary of when he left me and our new baby as their anniversary. It's so gross. He has sent me photos of our, at the time, toddler with anniversary cards strategically placed next to her. People are gross. Absolutely not. Not the idiot nut. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm back to share the latest developments. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and I'm still trying to process everything that went down. First off, let's talk about the anniversary of my ex's cheating. As you know, he wanted to go on a trip to celebrate his 2-year anniversary, which also happens to be the time he cheated on me. I had already told him no last year, explaining that it was disrespectful to even ask me to watch the kids during that time. Well, he asked again, and I stood my ground, refusing to budge on my decision. But here's where things took a turn. My ex, who has been struggling financially since losing his job due to the felony he committed against me, came up with a compromise that caught me off guard. He proposed that if I agreed to watch the kids for those days, he would sign over his half of the house to me. The house that I had been paying half the mortgage for. The house I was locked out of during our separation. I was stunned. The house had been a major point of contention during our divorce, and getting full ownership would be a huge financial relief. but could I really accept this offer? It felt like a bribe, and I was torn between my principles and practicality. Meanwhile, my ex was dealing with his own set of issues. He had been in therapy and stopped drinking, but the stress of our ongoing conflicts was taking a toll on him. He was desperate to find some semblance of normalcy and thought this trip would help him find it. As for the kids, they were blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding. They continued to be the bright spots in my life, and I was determined to keep it that way. I always made sure they felt loved and wanted, no matter what was happening between their father and me. Now, let's talk about my hedgehog. Remember how I mentioned she was thriving? Well, she's become a symbol of resilience for me. Despite the neglect she suffered at the hands of my ex, she's bounced back, and I've been making plans to bring her home with us once I find a pet-friendly place. Back to the compromise. After much thought, I decided to take my ex up on his offer. It wasn't an easy decision, and it certainly didn't sit well with me at first. But I had to think about the long-term benefits for my children and me. With full ownership of the house, I could provide a more stable environment for them, and it would alleviate some of the financial strain I'd been under. The day my ex signed the papers was surreal. There was no fanfare, just a quiet exchange in a lawyer's office, but the weight that lifted off my shoulders was immense. I had secured a piece of my future, and in a way, it felt like reclaiming a part of my past that had been taken from me. Of course, this didn't mean everything was suddenly perfect. My ex was still upset about having to shorten his trip, and there was an obvious tension between us. But for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had some control over my life again. And then, just when I thought things were settling down, my ex threw another curveball. He apologized. It was a genuine, heartfelt apology for everything he had put me through. He acknowledged the pain he caused and expressed regret for his actions. I was floored. It didn't erase the past, but it was a step toward healing that I hadn't expected. So here we are, 2 weeks later, and the dust is starting to settle. My ex went on his shortened trip, and I watched the kids, knowing that when he returned, I would be the sole owner of our house. It's been a ride of emotions, but through it all, I've learned that sometimes compromises, no matter how unexpected, can lead to new beginnings. My daughter dresses to tempt my boyfriend's son, and he eggs it on, so I kick him out and teach her self-respect while they find new places to stay. 35 years old. My daughter is 14 years old. Her father passed away when she was 2 years old, and I remained single up until 2 years ago when I started dating Matt. He is 46 years old and has a 19-year-old son, Chris. They moved in with us 2 months ago. Chris is in college full-time and stays at my place because it's super close to campus. He is a really good kid who shows a lot of respect. And the issue? My daughter very obviously has a crush on him. Since Matt and Chris moved in, my daughter started dressing really inappropriately at home. I'm not talking about revealing clothing. I couldn't care less if she wore short shorts or whatever around the house. It's actually the lack of clothing that is the issue. She never did this prior to them moving in, but now whenever Chris is home, she will come out in literally nothing but her bra and underwear. She wears girls' boxers, so it's not a super big deal, but it's absolutely become a problem. The boys don't even pay attention to her, but I see what she's doing, and it bothers me because she literally only does it when she knows Chris is home. Like this morning, Chris had late classes, and it's her school vacation. She came out in her normal pajamas originally, saw Chris sitting at the table on his laptop. She announces she's taking a shower. She comes out 30 minutes later in her bra and underwear with a flannel unbuttoned over it and says, "Hey, Chris, what are you doing?" and sits down beside him. I immediately told her to come talk to me in my bedroom, and it was at this point that I told her, from this point forward, she wasn't allowed to leave her bedroom unless she was properly dressed. She asked, "Why do I have to put clothes on when this is my home and I should be able to be comfortable?" So I was blunt and said, "Because the only time you seem to give a damn about your so-called comfort clothing is when Chris is here. Go put some clothes on." She stormed off to her room and slammed the door and didn't come out again. Now, I have literally spoken to her about this at least 4 other times because it just keeps getting worse and she keeps putting on less and less clothing. I've asked her straight up if she had a crush on Chris, and her face goes beet red while saying, "Ooh, gross, no." But it's obvious either way. I'm not blind. I also made a point to tell her she needs to think about how much trouble she could get older guys into by making the advances she is. But of course she gets angry that I'm accusing her of being a slut. I never said that. I think she's a normal hormonal teenager trying to get guys' attention. Either way, she's pissed, and she texted my mother, who is now calling me and saying I'm wrong for making my daughter feel like her comfort doesn't matter over a guy and his son who aren't family. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. How you end this is by pointing out, would you feel comfortable if an 11-year-old boy was complimenting your bra, wanting to be your friend? When you're young, it's not normal to want to hang out or date much younger people than yourself. It would be super weird for her to be close friends with 5th graders. Like it or not, Chris sees her the exact same way. If he's at all worth it, he'll be just like her, wanting to have friends and date someone his age. And if there's a 19-year-old showing interest in her, the only question to ask herself is, why aren't they normal and interested in hanging out with people their own age or slightly older? Comment 2. Not the idiot. Why do I have to put clothes on when this is my home and I should be able to be comfortable? As you've obviously sussed out, she's not dressing that way to be comfortable. She's dressing that way to provoke a reaction. Chris lives there now too, and he deserves to be able to be comfortable in his home too, not have a 14-year-old girl behave inappropriately towards him. This isn't about comfort or clothing policing. It's about a line being crossed. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post about my daughter's inappropriate behavior around my boyfriend's son, Chris. I never expected things to escalate the way they did, but here we are. First off, let me give you a bit of background on my daughter. She's always been a bit of a free spirit, taking after her late father in that regard. He was the kind of guy who would go surfing in the middle of winter just because he felt like it. My daughter inherited that boldness, but lately it's been manifesting in ways that are less than ideal. 2 days ago, things took a turn for the worse. I caught my daughter trying to sneak into Chris's room late at night. I was shocked and confronted her immediately. She broke down and confessed that she thought if Chris saw her in a more adult situation, he might reciprocate her feelings. I had to explain to her, yet again, the inappropriateness of her actions and the potential consequences for Chris. Now let's talk about Matt. He's always been a rock for me, especially after my husband passed away. But his reaction to this whole situation was something I did not see coming. When I told him what happened, he accused me of overreacting and said that teenagers will be teenagers. I couldn't believe he was dismissing the seriousness of the situation. But the real betrayal came the next day. I overheard a conversation between Matt and Chris that left me reeling. Matt was telling Chris to be flattered by my daughter's attention and even suggested he could teach her a thing or two about relationships. I was floored. This was not the man I thought I knew. The man who had always been so respectful and kind was now encouraging his son to take advantage of my daughter's crush. I confronted Matt immediately, and the argument that followed was intense. He tried to defend himself, saying he was just trying to bond with his son, but I wasn't having any of it. I told him that I couldn't be with someone who didn't respect my daughter's well-being. In the midst of all this chaos, Chris actually came to me and apologized. He said he never intended to encourage my daughter's behavior and felt uncomfortable with the whole situation. He admitted that he had been avoiding her because he didn't want to lead her on or hurt her feelings. It was a small comfort to know that he understood the gravity of the situation. The confrontation with Matt led to him deciding to move out. He said he needed space to think about everything that had happened. Chris, however, chose to stay at a friend's place near campus to avoid any further issues. As for my daughter, we had a long talk about boundaries, respect, and the importance of not seeking validation in the wrong ways. I also explained to her how her actions could have serious repercussions for Chris. She seemed to take it to heart this time, and I've noticed a change in her behavior since then. The house feels emptier without Matt and Chris, but it's given my daughter and me a chance to work on our relationship. We've been spending more quality time together, and I've been trying to fill the void left by her father with more positive influences. I'm still processing the betrayal from Matt. It's hard to reconcile the man I loved with the one who so casually dismissed my concerns about our children. But I'm focusing on my daughter and making sure she knows that her self-worth doesn't depend on anyone else's attention. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.